Okay, shalom, 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 shalom. First of all, giving all praises to the Allaham of our forefathers of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, whose proper name is Yahweh or Yahweh Shah. And since I'm going to speak about commerce, I want to say for the record, this is not legal advice. I do not offer legal advice. If you need legal advice, seek yourself a competent counsel, and then please be advised. I'm about to give you strictly for educational, informational, entertainment purposes only. It's not to be taken or misconstrued as legal advice. It's for educational purposes only. I want to talk to you about some commerce. I'm give you some right knowledge. And if you're not a secure party creditor, before they send in this second wave of Operation Covert, I will highly, highly advise you to please do so. To become a creditor now. What are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? Many of you, I've been, doing this for over 12 years. Some of you never donate. You're freeloaders. If I offended you, I meant to. You know who you are. Never give a donation. You just trying to come around. You want something for free. And that explains your condition or where you are in life. You always got to give back. Remember that. Remember that I tell you that. You always got to give back. So the first thing I want to deal with is the United States Corporation versus Tazadaq Shah, the Shah family. So to be an effective creditor, you must comprehend contracts. You must comprehend offer and acceptance. I was going over a bit of that yesterday, the difference between an offer and when, despite the language that someone is speaking to you in, if you start to look at everything as an offer, you may be less paranoid and you may be less afraid because essentially everything really is an offer. It's all about offer and acceptance. So when someone, no matter what is sent to you, any sort of commercial presentment, it's always an offer. Always an offer. And so, again, I'm going to recommend that you become a secure party creditor first, and then donate for the accepted for value package. You will also need books and DVDs to really comprehend how to function as a creditor. I'm not just saying this. A lot of people, they've gone through other people and they become so-called secure party creditors, but they don't know how to handle any kind of commercial presentment. Now, an unconditioned promise to an order. What is that? You say, what are you talking about, Tazadaq? Well, let me share my screen and I'll share with you what I'm talking about. An unconditional offer to a promise. And you could actually pull this up yourself on Google. I'm just going to Legal Information Institute so you can see I'm not making this up. So I'm sharing my screen right here. I'll wait until it populates on YouTube, and yeah, there it is. So UCC 3-106, we're going to discuss this real quick. An unconditional promise or order. Except as provided in this section for the purpose of section 3-104, a promise or order is unconditional unless it states an express condition to payment. So you must express a express condition to payment, that the promise or order is subject to or governed by another record, or the right or obligation with respect to the promise or order are stated in another record. A reference to another record does not of itself make the promise or order conditional. B, a promise or order is made conditional by a reference to another record for a statement of rights with respect to the collateral prepayment or acceleration, or because the payment is limited to resort to a particular fund or source. C, if a promise or order requires a condition to payment, a counter signature by a person, emphasis added, whose specimen signature appears on the promise or order, the condition does not make the promise or the order conditional for the purpose of Section 3-104. If the person whose specimen signature appears on an instrument, we covered yesterday what an instrument is. If you're not clear on what an instrument is, then go back and watch the video from yesterday. Fails to countersign the instrument, the failure to countersign is a defense to the obligation of the issuer, but the failure does not prevent a transfer of the instrument from becoming a holder of the instrument. And alas, D, if a promise or an order at the time it is issued or first comes into possession of a holder contains a statement required by a applicable statutory or administrative law to the effect that the right of a holder or transfer are subject to claim or defense that the issuer could assert against the original payee, the promise or the order is not thereby made conditional for the purpose of Section 3-104. And I covered Section 3-104 yesterday as well in the previous video. But if the promise or order is an instrument, there cannot be a holder in due course of the instrument. What is a holder in due course? What is conditional? Well, I can tell you straightforward, 99% of the time for me is going to be a conditional acceptance, which is always a counteroffer. A conditional acceptance is always a counteroffer. And usually you're going to win. So a civil matter, let's say you're dealing with a civil matter, Tariq. Let's say you're dealing with a civil matter in a family court. Some of you may be dealing with other civil matters that they try to tell you is criminal, such as a traffic court. A civil matter requests an injunction served to the authorized representative of Tazadaq Shah, all capital letters. I'm his authorized representative. I'm his attorney, in fact, of Tazadaq Shah. So a civil matter requests an injunction served to the authorized representative of Tazadaq Shah. Creditors don't argue. Remember this. Whenever you receive a presentment or any kind of thing in the mail, be it a summons, an alleged debt, if you argue, that is a debtor. That is what debtors do. Creditors never argue, not in relationships, not anything. Creditors never argue. If you argue, you will lose. Authorized representative, I being such, is not the defendant. I'm going to reiterate that. The authorized representative is not the defendant, Warrior Lord. It's not the defendant, Tariq Matt. These terms are very essentially important, so you may want to very well pay strict, specific attention to them. An authorized representative is not a defendant. The defendant, essentially, in real truth, Tariq, if you apply this, Tariq, you will be very effective in court. I'll reiterate, and I don't know if I'm leaving this video up. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. The authorized representative is not the defendant. The defendant is essentially an account. Defendant is an account, Tribe of Judah. It is a public trust inside of a private trust. Did you catch that, Tariq? Remember that. Whenever they try to refer to you as a defendant in any kind of legality situation, keep in mind, you never get in trouble until it goes public. When you allow them to put you in the public, trouble is coming your way. Essentially, the problem is most persons cannot differentiate private from public and lawful from legal. So I'm going to reiterate that one more time. An authorized representative is not a defendant. I am the authorized representative of Tazadaq Shah. The defendant is an account. It is a public trust inside of a private trust. When we act, Tariq, we always want to act on the private side. We always want to conduct a private process. Again, as you come in the room, go ahead and give a thumbs up. Go ahead and give a thumbs up, but a donation will really show your appreciation. The donation link is in the room at Cash App. Cash.me/$Tazadaq Shah. Getting back to this. And if you're not a secure party creditor, become one before this sucking shutdown. I cannot overemphasize that. You do not want to go into this second shutdown as another debtor. You better start stacking things up again now, because there's 150 doctors suggesting that the United States corporation shuts down again. The second being worse than the first. So, a private process. That's how we move. Now, they allege that they have a claim. Let's say, for instance, Tariq, I was going in for child support or child custody. They always allege that they have a claim, right? But they haven't made one. What claim do they have against me? My sons and my daughters are my property. They come out of my loins. Sometimes Eve doesn't agree with that. Eve will say, I carried it for 9 months, 10 months. It's mine. Well, I carried a seed in me for 20 years before I deposited it into you. Now, who would you say have more of a rightful claim? But nevertheless, the court decides, let's go with Eve, because the court has become a big, fat, wet vagina. And almost every man that goes in there gets F-U-C-K-E-D. You can't even call me a liar. 90% of all custody cases are won by feminists, because a court is pushing a feminist agenda. Don't get upset, sisters. This is true. Brother after brother would tell you the same thing. They're pushing gynocentrism. It's a gynocentric society. So the average man that goes into a court, and if he doesn't know the law, a contract. Contract is law and law is contract. If he doesn't know that, he gets divorced rate, which means most of his property is taken care of him and given to a woman that may have committed adultery on it, may have not worked the entire relationship. Justify that in the eyes of the Most High. You can't. So they allege that they have a claim, but they haven't made one, Tariq. There is no signature or bona fide claim attached. Facts. You got to pay attention to this, man. You got to pay attention to this. Where is the signature that substantiates your bona fide claim? I need someone to sign under the penalty of perjury. Now, how can they do that, Tariq, if they wasn't present at whatever situation that took place? Leonard? Hey, Shalom, I'm Leonard. How could they do it? They can't. They can't. So 99% of the time for me, it's a conditional accepted for value. 99% of the time for you, it should be a conditional accepted for value. But you guys like the YouTube hop. You go from YouTube channel to YouTube channel, then you get confused and you don't know what the hell to believe. Then you want me to take you out of that puzzle that you got your head into. That's not my responsibility. So 99% of the time for me, Leonard Dayahuda, it is conditional acceptance for value. Tazadaq, I always tell them to send me a verified, not verifiable, Tariq. Listen to what I'm saying, good brother. I always tell them to send me a verified claim, and I'll make sure it gets paid. And I'll consider your injunction. Tazadaq, you're $70,000 student loan. Okay. Roger that. I conditionally accept your offer upon proof of a verified claim with your signature on it, and I'll make sure that the matter is settled and closed. Then I'll consider your injunction. I'll attach my bonded promissory note. Case is closed. Is this not what they do when you purchase a car, Tariq? Of course it is. Is this not what they do when you purchase a home, Leonard? Of course it is. Your signature signs a promissory note. The debt is settled right there. They pay off that person or the company or the corporation that the car was sold by. Then they tell you, you got to pay them for loaning you something that you created with your energy. And not only should you pay them, you got to pay them with interest. So you're going to pay them 2 times and pay the person that sold the car once, so you pay for it 3 times. Same thing you do with your homes. Same thing. A divorce decree is a contract. This is what we got to read everything before we sign, your brother Tariq. So why not, for educational purposes, Tariq, why not bind the court? The civil servants and the public agencies, why not bind them? Bind the services that go with land when you have a land patent. Why not bind everything? Again, as you come into the room, go ahead and hit a thumbs up. A donation would be much more appreciated at cash.me/$Tazadaq Show. So we was talking about conditional, right? In the inception of this video. I tell people this, and most people drop the ball on this. A private counter offer, we keep it in a private, Tariq. We keep it in a private, Leonard. Always keep it in a private, right? Why do we keep it in a private? Because the very moment that you go public, you're going to... People in trouble because they cannot separate private from the public. And so when it goes public, this is why everyone gets in trouble. This is why everything goes wrong. And this is where you fail, when it goes on the public side. They operate in the public. We operate in the private. Do you understand? So you, all of your correspondence, you want to deal in the private. You want to keep it in the private. I'll put the link in the room for all of you that seriously want to become creditors. You click here and get it done. So we always want to keep it on the private side. Why? Does anyone know why we want to go private? We always want to stay in the private because the corporations can't operate in the private. The de facto government cannot operate in the private. They can only operate in the public. See, we operate in the private side, and they operate in the public. Problem is, when things go public, this is where most of you fail, man. This is where most of you lose. This is where most of you either pay a fine, and if you can't afford to pay the fine, you get locked up. So we always, creditors, always operate in the private, not in the public. When you go on the public side, you're going to pay a debt or you're going to get thrown in a box. It never ends well. You got to be able to discern public from private. The other problems that you guys have with that is you'll go to a little private organization and you will attempt to discharge a debt thinking that it's a public debt, but it's really not. It's on the private side. That's just like you and I. That's not how this works. What you really should do is you need to go back and read over House Joint Resolution 192 and Public Law 7310. These are public debts that we're talking about, not private. So private counteroffers has a 10-day response time. I, Tazadaq, I always give an additional 10 days to afford full due process. After the initial fault, by notice of fault, at 10 days, Tazadaq will have a bona fide counterclaim, which will go on the notice of fault. They had 10 days to make a claim. Instead, what do they do? Same thing that they most likely do with you. They will be prejudiced. They will be prejudiced against Tazadaq security entrance, which is paramount. No one has a higher entrance than Tazadaq in his public trust. I, Tazadaq, am entitled to all the proceeds of his property, including all the fruits of my labor. 1 Timothy 5:17 says, 5:18, for the scripture says, do not muzzle an ox while it is treading out the grain, and the worker is worthy of his wages. So that means when you put out work, you're worthy of your wages. So 10 days, they get the notice of fault. They had 10 days. They have not produced a bona fide claim. So here's the counterclaim. They're committing fraud. Did you give them 10 days, Tariq? They're committing fraud. Did you give them 10 days? Leonard? They're committing fraud, collision, corruption, conspiracy, trespasses. For which, my fee starts at $100,000 penalty apiece. So even without perfecting claim, Tazadaq can enter the suit as a claimant, counter, a cross plaintiff, or litigant, invoking maritime admiralty, not as a representative of the defendant or the defendant. See, Tazadaq holds a security interest in the defendant. He has a claim as $200,000 counterclaim against whoever initiated the suit, who is trying to prejudice Tazadaq's security interest without a claim. Someone may be trying to take your children. Are you holding them liable? Do they have a bona fide claim with a signature on it under the penalty of perjury? Have you given them a counteroffer? Attorneys and judges have immunity. That's a limited liability in equity. They do not have immunity in maritime admiralty concerning a contract on the private side. As long as you know how to keep it private, judges and attorneys, KG, are not immune. They're not immune. Do you understand? Not in maritime admiralty. They have no immunity as long as I keep it private. This is why I always operate in the private. But you got to be able to discern the difference, the distinction between public and private. In maritime admiralty, concerning contracts on the private side, they have no immunity. They have full commercial liability. Why not hold these people accountable that's trying to take your children? Hitting you with child support. You didn't even get to show up in court. Is that due process? But you just agree because some bar attorney told you, well, this is what it is. If not, that's not due process of law. This is private communications between the parties. Do you understand? See, even in the state court, right, saving the suitor, right, even in the state court allows the invoking of maritime admiralty law. Stop me where I'm lying at. You ever read UCC 28 USC 1333 subsection 1? Go and check it out for yourself. Even a state court allows invoking maritime admiralty law on the private side. Have a look at 28 USC. (1333) subsection 1. Any court, folks, any court must recognize an maritime admiralty claim by a claimant who brings it. Any court's got to recognize it. But what do when they lure you in the court and they don't have anything against you and they keep playing games with you like they keep doing with Shaw, calling you back, can't get you, call you back until you screw it up, and then they're able to get jurisdiction over you, and then you end up paying some fine that you shouldn't have paid in the first place. But you don't know the law, and you go in. You didn't have any counterclaim against that. And there was no bona fide claim that they had against you. It wasn't signed with anyone's signature on it that you could hold liable. So if no one signed it, who are you holding liable? No one wants to take responsibility. You get these things in the mail and they have no signature. Why? Because no one wants to assume the responsibility. No one wants to get sued. But you submit to it anyways. You submit to it anyways. Because you fear the system. Let's face it, man. You fear the system. That's the only reason. You fear the system. You fear that something awful, terrible, horrible is going to happen to you. And so if you could actually ever overcome that fear, you will probably begin to see things a hell of a lot more clear. The problem is most people never overcome that fear. And that fear is what's used to manipulate you, what's used to control you. You don't stand up against it. You bow down to it. As a debtor, this is what debtors do. You argue. You'll argue, and if you argue, you're going to lose. 99% of the times, people that argue, they don't win in court. 99% of the times. They let one or two that go and spend thousands on lawyers to slip through the cracks. Otherwise, debtors never win. Debtors never get the remedy that they're seeking in court. Yet you go right on arguing, seeing that it doesn't work, but you'll go right on arguing. You go right on, you continue to participate in the same thing over and over and over again. Again, what was the definition of insanity? You do the same things consistently. Doesn't work, you do a little harder. You think, well, maybe I'm just not doing it hard enough. Doing the same thing, you get no results. This is what debtors do. It's failure. It's complete failure. And you know what? Sadly enough, folks, family, most people have become accustomed to failure. Most people have actually adjusted to being a failure and not being able to overcome failure. And this is where you lose. And this is where you're not where you want to be in life, man. This is where you're not where you want to be. But then you create excuses and you start playing the blame game and you want to push it off on someone else. Oh, it was her fault. She was no good. Well, what are you going to do about it? So keep it on a private side. Even in state court, invoke maritime amity. You understand? Invoke maritime amity, Shaw. Get rid of that case, man. It's been going on too long, Shaw. Get rid of it. Get rid of it. Do it on the private side, Shaw. Your incidents have been going on too long. Have a look at 28 USC 1333 subsection 1. See, the United States won't be showing up to court, Shaw. Who's showing up to court when you go, Tariq? Who's showing up to court when you go, Shaw? Who's showing up? They generally say the people versus Daryl. The people versus Tariq. The United States won't be showing up to court. And if they say the people are the real party of interest, then hey, let's grab the phone book and start calling witnesses. Why not? Who's the damaged party? Who's the damaged party in your case, Shaw? Who's injured? Who's the damaged party? If it's criminal, there has to be a corpus delicti. There has to be a damaged party or some property damage. Who's the damaged party? Damages are alleged. Can't you see? Who got hurt in your situation, Tariq? Where's the injured party? Where's the corpus delicti? All of these damages are alleged. You guys just don't realize how the game is being played. So let's get the damaged parties in here. I need to talk to the damaged parties. Who's the real party of interest? The claimant, who has a bona fide claim under penalty of perjury. So who has a bona fide claim under penalty of perjury against you, Shaw? That case should have been over a long time ago, good brother. And to all of you is dealing with banks. Banks pretend. You know, like an actor and actresses, banks. These banksters, they got you guys. They got you guys on a damn string. And they're dangling you around like a puppet. Because banks pretend that they loan you money, then they get you to pay it back 3 times. They'll bundle your agreement to pay it back with 1,000 other securities, and then they sell them. Even your credit card bills are bundled and sold as security. Stop me where I'm lying at. Sure, Jerome? Who's holding the note? Got a card? Guy just called me last week, telling me they took the card, repoed it. I told him, hey, if I was you, I would always keep it inside of a locked area. The law says they can't come within a locked area. But who's holding the note? Who's holding the note to your home? Who's holding the note to your home? Shua? Jerome? Who do we actually pay our monthly bills to? Have you ever stopped to think about that? Who are you actually paying your monthly bills to? Who's foreclosing? And is there an agreement with who this is? Did you agree with them? Whoever's doing the foreclosure. If there's no agreement between you and them, how in the hell are they foreclosing on you, man? You got to understand contract law. See, the right to foreclose was never assigned. It was never signed in the first place. The creator of the trust is the one being foreclosed upon, and it is he who appointed the beneficiary and the trustee. And it is he who has a right to change it. The note had paid the seller. No one gets paid with a debt validation. You understand? And typically, third-party debt collectors will pass it on. Contact credit reporting agencies and inform them that the black marks were not valid debts. Give them, oh, you want to fix your credit? I'll tell you how in a snap. You contact these credit reporting agencies and tell them that the black marks were not valid debts. Then you give them 45 days that the request that you get whatever they receive from the banks. Validation is someone declaring under penalty of perjury that the debt is valid. If they won't do it under penalty of perjury, the debt is not valid. You can win on that premise alone. Have a look at UCC 9-210, collateralized debt. There's a simple code, man. UCC 9-210, collateralized debt. Very simple code. Ever look at it before? Have a look at it, Jerome. Requesting regarding statement of account. You put zero balance under penalty of perjury. Your process supports your position that there is zero balance account. They accept it for value or the promissory note. Did they keep it? Did you do an A for V and did they keep it? If so, have they not been paid? That back child support. You done an A for V. My only question to you, Shaw, did they keep it? You got a car on the public side. You conducted a conditional acceptance for value. You gave them a 10-day deadline to respond. Otherwise, the alleged debt is set off, settled, and closed. Did they keep it? Did they keep it, Shaw? Just a question, man. Did they keep it? They charge you with $2,000 for alleged debt for a DUI. You do a conditional acceptance value on that thing. Did they keep it, Shaw? Did they keep it? If they kept it, have they not been paid? Is not the alleged matter set off, settled, and closed? Have you not zeroed out the account? They accepted the A for V or the promissory note or whatever you tendered. If they think it's not zero balance, this is their opportunity to sign under penalty of perjury that is not. Do you understand? It's really that simple, man. Oh, we don't accept this kind of payment. Okay. Why'd you that? I sent you a conditional acceptance for value on such and such date. Could you swear under the penalty of perjury that the balance has not been zeroed out? That's your conditional acceptance to them. See how they respond to that one. You got to always know which of the 5 forms of law that you're operating in, folks. You got to always know. Always know. And always, you got to learn to create harmony. You got to become the author of contracts in your life. You got to become, if you want to know how to get the title, DM still want to do a donation for phone coaching. You're going off topic here. Don't try to come in here and get free information because I'm on a call. I don't like that spirit, man. You got to learn to become the author of contracts in your life. Everything is a contract. What he just asked me right there, how do I get the title? He just made me an offer. I gave him a counter offer. I told him to make a donation. Everything's contracts. Everything that we think of is a contract. Everything's a contract. Banks and government hardly ever have a claim, but they keep winning against you guys. They hardly have a claim. And as long as you are not harming anyone, Shaw, still on the call, Shaw, don't run, man, talk back to me, man. As long as you're not harming anyone, you have the right to do whatever you want to do in the private, including an unlimited right to contract. All international law recognizes this, all of them. Every single man is sovereign, or woman is a queen, according to the UN, Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Everyone has the ability to give up their rights when they contract as a corporate citizen. This is what my good brother Tariq did. You signing divorce decrees, and hey, you're contracting your rights away, unless you comprehend what it said. Now you're operating as a corporate citizen, which moves you into the public. If you are a citizen of the United States, I'm still learning, you're in the public. This is when people get in trouble. A subject only has benefits and obligations. A subject sovereign relationship is a trust relationship, whether expressed or implied. Which are you? In your situation, you're the sovereign or you're the subject. Another word for sovereign is king. Another word for subject is slave. See, we could create harmony between the public and the private worlds, make all parties whole, but stand in the private. Always stand in the private. Respond, don't react. That went over your head. What did I say, Shaw? Respond, don't react. Why not react? React. You got to respond, don't react. Don't assume anything. Be present. Wherever you're with anyone, in a sense, you're in court. Whenever anything, any kind of transaction or conversation is taking place between people, you're in court. Court exists every day outside of the court. The one that keeps the best records, that's who wins in court. You're always in court. It's whoever keeps the best records. As you come in the room, go ahead and get a thumbs up. Book of Leviticus 19 and 13 says you must not defraud your neighbor or rob him. You must not withhold until morning the wages due a hired hand. So DM's still learning. If you want information, a workman is worthy of his hire. Make a donation. It's real simple. Even the Most High, the Bible says that. Deuteronomy 24 and 14. Do not oppress a hired hand who is poor and needy, whether he is a brother or a foreigner residing in one of your towns. Take heed to that. Deuteronomy 25 and 4 says, do not muzzle an ox while it is treading out the grain. So a workman is worthy of his hire. Now, let's deal with some forms of law real quick, because I honestly believe a lot of people don't comprehend the different forms of law. You have the natural law, right? That's oneness with Yahweh. Do you understand? Do you understand? Then you have commercial law. You're talking about exchange. You're talking private contract equals law. Credit and debt is creation. It's created in this. You have duality and separateness only. Like Yahweh, the shame of judgment. So voluntary contracts between sovereigns. Then you have patent of nativity. Make sure yours has a border of 8.5 by 14, not a certificate of birth. A patent of nativity is what you should have. You ever heard of the nativity story? This is all spiritual, folks. Those of you that's not spiritual, you're never really successful as this. A couple people finally got it out. They said, Tazadaq, I was studying this for years. I didn't get it until you made me or helped me understand that it was all spiritual. This is all spiritual, man. A patent, a nativity is what you should have, not a certificate of birth. A patent of nativity is beyond all jurisdictions. Then you go down a lower level, you have what is known as the common law. That's national and international standards of engagement. Then you have that code of Hammurabi, Ten Commandments, Admiralty. That's private international law. You have claim of life with stamps and flags. They speak in quantum language. See, folks, by receiving a benefit and privileges, you're in agreement with special rules. Case in point, if you accept a stimulus check, you're in agreement with certain rules, special rules. Statutory law is always aligned with UCC codes. BC is a product of statutes. A birth certificate is a product of statutes and is a public trust for which you are actually contributing as a beneficiary. You have what's known as grant deeds. You got political laws. A political law, the Bar Association has its own regulations. And you're not a party to any of it. The higher law form creates the law, and the law cannot acknowledge its creator. So natural communications is created commercial law. When going to court, I, Tazadaq Shah, I carry nothing more than 2 forms of ID. What is those 2 forms of ID? Want to take a shot at it? Shah, you be going to court. And why they keep jamming you up, you don't know how to go in. I go in as a man. I go in as a man with proof that I'm a man. What do you take when you go to court? DM still learning. I'm not talking about your previous donations. DM still learning. I'm sure if you donated in the past, you got something. I give out free information every day. The videos, most videos have remedy in it. Most of you just don't get it. Most of these videos should bring you remedy. All you got to do is go and watch the YouTube videos. So when I go into court, a SOMC, I take in the original patent of nativity and the original claim of a life, along with what? $50 gold coin in my pocket. Nothing else. No FRNs, none of that. None of that's necessary. Why do I need FRNs? I'm not a contributing beneficiary in a public trust, which is a U.S. citizen. Most of you are. Do you understand? Now, my affidavit's already in on the record, good brother Andre Butler. Before I get there, it's always it's already in the record. I taken a patent of nativity and an original claim of life, along with a $50 gold coin and nothing else in my pockets. I don't need anything else. Everything else is here with the spirit. And go in and you're traditional guard. Blow the so far before you go in. Blow the so far 3-4 times before you go in. Walking in the spirit. But I don't bring FRNs because I'm not contributing, nor am I a contributing beneficiary in a public trust known as a U.S. citizen. I'm the executive trustee of a private trust. There's a great distinction there. You go in. I got a question for you, Andre. Are you a U.S. citizen? What is a U.S. citizen, Shaw? What is a U.S. citizen? A birth certificate doesn't identify Tazadaq, Shaw. It identifies a trust. What did I say at the inception of this lecture? It is a private trust. Birth certificates on bond papers with members were registered at the DTC right here in New York City, Depository Trust Corporation, DTC, on Water Street. See, records of property entrance originate from different forms of law. Mortgage liens or deeds or trusts. Memorializations of trust is a form of security interest in property, which is statutory. Anything recorded at co records has statutory authority. Mechanics liens are even statutory. Tax liens are common or commercial liens. The IRS is not an agency of the United States. It is a foreign agency. Yet you fear it. You fear it. IRC is statutory. But it was derived up higher. It was not activated at legislative. It is not positive law. It is private. UCC is codified. But it is private commercial law or the highest form of the common law. So basically, it is the foundational structure of all law. Every nation's laws conform to the UCC. You can't even call me a liar, man. These are actual facts, man. The United States Code is UCC, just made more complicated. Private agreement lien is a commercial law. Every country has some code that matches the UCC. The Buck Act. The Buck Act created corporations overlaid over states. State of California, a political subdivision of the United States statutory law. Or the Republic of California is sovereign but bankrupt entity in common law. UCC 4. You operate as a banker. Anyone who banks is a bank. I'll say that again. It might have went over your head. Anyone who banks is a bank. What is consideration? Something such as an act, forbearance, or return promise, bargain for and received by a promiser from a promisee. That which motivates a person to do something, especially to engage in a legal act. Black Law's Dictionary. The reason or material cause of a contract. Silence is what? Acquiescence. Reason or consideration. Silence is acquiescence. You may not have known that you waive your rights to travel by getting a driver's license, but you actually did. But you accepted the privilege of being a driver. You go and get the driver's license, you waive your rights for a right to travel, but you go in and you argue it. If you're a car, or should I say if your car is registered with the state, there's a presumption that the state has that you're operating a commercial vehicle. Now, you can rebut the presumption. You can return the license plate return the registration and plates to the DMV. So you're not presumed to be a pirate. Notify the public that you've done so, and you can be free. Do you want to do it? Au contraire. See, foremost, the second, the state needs to be noticed because it is your interface as a foreigner to and with the state. I'll be traveling through the state of California for private purposes. Here's the plate I will be putting on my car. Here's a bond for setting off any damages I may cause in commerce. You get an example of the bond for insurance purposes in my latest book, The Plug. Am I telling you to do that? No, I'm just telling you could get it there if you want to. You got to notify the DMV. You got to notify the state police. You got to notify the Department of Transportation. You got to notify the county sheriff, etc. You got to give them notices of potential damages. Let's say about $5 million for their unauthorized stopping you and detaining you or unauthorized vessel seizing. See, if you put them on notice before you do this stuff, now you're operating in proper order. Do you understand? They seize your vessel, you've already put them on notice. They're liable. See, everyone gets a photocopy of the plates. Get a photocopy of your fee schedule and a copy of your bond for insurance, etc. See, without the bond, you'll most likely be designated as a domestic terrorist. Do you understand? Contact your Secretary of State for educational purposes. Being the fiduciary and holder in due course, he or she handle the debt. Injured parties should send the claims to your Secretary of State, not to me. If they send it to you, you send it to the Secretary of Treasury. Do you understand? It's really that simple, Andre. Really that simple. When in doubt, rely on questions and conditional acceptance. Don't make statements. Debtors make statements. After all, you really don't know anything. Damn the facts. The facts are on the moon. You don't know a damn thing, so you have no positions to defend. You understand that, Shaw? You don't know nothing, so you have no position to defend. Why keep going in as a defendant? All arguers take positions. The questioners is without a position. The questioners controls the conversation and the contracts. Creditors always ask questions because he that is asking is as king. Debtors make statements and you lose. Judges are trained to have you to indict yourself, man. Don't do it. They get you talking. Always coherently address the actual offer that you receive. You make your conditional acceptance applicable. A conditional acceptance is always a counter offer. Do you follow me? We're doing titles, title of account, and so on and so forth, right? You're dealing with this, right? Property title is split. Deed of trust is an agreement on top of the title. Documents of title, right? You got the grant deed, which is essentially a warranty deed in some states, which is also a warranty of the title, guaranteeing clear title. A clear title is what? It means no other entrance, no liens. So be careful buying non-warranted property at auctions that may have liens on them. You go to an auction, you get a car, damn car might have a lien on it that someone else has an entrance in. See, prior to 1933, right? Pre-1933, land grants, land patents, right? They were valid. Since then, no one has any right to any land. Everyone has abandoned their entrance, even the state, because the state, being fictional, cannot acquire a patent. The parents, the patents, are still sitting there in the county recorders, in the county records. So if you acquire the interest in a land patent, it is you who collects the property tax on the property. Everyone else on the land, the other subdivisions, are tenants with rights, but you can tax them for being on your land. Tenants have only temporary hold on property. The land patent was established, it was just never conveyed. It used to be that people conveyed their patents to their heirs. The county has acknowledged that the interest in the land has been abandoned. So they step in as a constructive trustee, as no one else is running the trust, and they collect the taxes. In exchange, they provide fire departments, they provide police departments that beat the hell out of you, that gun you down in the streets, that brutalize you, that gas you. They provide parks, and they tell you to be out of here by sunset. They provide sewage. They provide water that often has lead in it. They provide street sweeping and other benefits. So the company holds controlling interests in almost everyone's property. The grant deed is your interest. Grant deeds are equitable title, not legal title, or controlling interest in the property. He who has a legal title receives the property taxes. You understand? This is why you pay the DMV property, the Treasury property taxes on your property, because they have legal title. You just have equitable title. An unlawful detainer. Maybe something you want to consider, right? See, the grant deed is your entrance, right? Grant deeds are equitable title, not legal title or controlling interest in the property. So he who has the legal title receives the property taxes, which is the state. An unlawful detainer has nothing to do with the title. Although we tend to associate title with rights to possession. Did you get the 3-day notice? Did you get the summons for the unlawful detainer? See, most of the time, the defendant, they don't even show up. They don't show up, Paul Knox. Every unlawful detainer always have 2 witnesses. One witness, the presentment of the 3-day notice. The other witness, the presentment, the summons and the complaint for the unlawful detainer judgment in favor of the plaintiff. Do you understand? Do you understand? Their title, a trustee's deed upon sale, is meaningless. It is a trustee granting and conveying their interest in the property which doesn't exist. They're not on the grant deed. They're not even on the trustees. They're not even on the trustee's deed of trust. They're just a trustee. But what are the requirements for an unlawful detainer? Anyone knows? As you come in the room, go ahead and give a thumbs up. Donation would be better. Do you know, brother Kaz? What are the requirements for an unlawful detainer? What are the requirements for an unlawful detainer? Where you at, Shaw? Why you hiding in the background, man? You still dealing with this court case, man. You should have gotten rid of that already, man. What are the requirements for an unlawful detainer? These are things that you're supposed to know, man, when you go into these colorable courts, man. For an unlawful detainer, you need a 3-day notice. You need a certificate of non-response, the 3-day notice. You serve a summons and complaint for the unlawful detainer. And then you need a certificate of service of summons. That's it. So in the background, there has to be an entrance. The trustee has no interest in the actual property until they sell it, then have possession. The trustee deed upon sale conveyed possession, even though they didn't have it yet. See, the trustee's deed upon sale is like the quick claim deed in that it actually conveys only the entrance possession that you plan to hold by simple contract. It's simple to flip it around, family. If you got a grant deed, obviously, you have the interest in the property. In fact, your interest is superior to anyone on a deed of trust. The grant deed was filed first. First in line, first in time. That's the maxim of law. It's paramount security interest. Put a 3-day notice on the door for educational purposes. Let me tell you what I would do. I'm not going to tell you to do this. I will put a 3-day notice on the door, right? I would send a 3-day notice to the bank. And when they don't respond within 3 days, I file an unlawful detainer case. I would send the summons to the bank. When they don't show up, I get judgment in my favor, which turns into a writ of possession that I take to the sheriff, the sharif. The sharif goes to the house, changes the locks, and give me the damn key. Moors don't know how to do this correctly, man. I just gave you more information right there than all these damn Moors out here going and squatting and all of this and getting in trouble. I just gave you the way to do it. I don't want to see folks kicked out of their homes, though. I'm just serving my neighbors. See, it was revealed. It was actually reversed, right? And some neighbors was doing it with you for 72 hours. Refuse for cause without dishonor. Refuse for cause can be used when there is something missing from their offer, such as non-disclosure. No, I'm not a party to contract. To refuse for cause, the substance of their offer may be lacking, inconsequential, immaterial, irrelevant. So to file a financial statement, you need a claim and you need an agreement of the debtor. Otherwise, the debtor can file a UCC-3 and terminate. Do you understand? Do you understand? If your matter involves a deed of trust, which is a security agreement, or a secured debt in relation to your property, 2 things. 1, the deed of trust is clouding your title. And number 2, the account is a secured debt. Remember to handle both. Also, you can't ignore them if they come after you again. Moors? Islam Moors? Are you not entertained? Now, generally, I, Tazadaq, would approach the account first, but it depends on how you plan to handle the title. If you're going the fraud route, right? They never lent you any money, gave disclosure, etc., which is a valid approach. How do you approach the account side in this case? It's almost contradictory to make a payment on your account after talking about how fraudulent the whole thing was. If you make the payment first, your approach can be there's no debt on the property anymore. Discompile the trust, create a new trust. You understand? Do you understand? Notice of correction for fraud. Hey, There was no disclosure in this agreement. I didn't realize I'd already paid for the house. I'm foreign U.S. trustee. And you, when I say you, I'm talking to the bank as beneficiary. Here's the new trustee and beneficiary. Thanks for nothing. Without full disclosure, there's fraud. See, this notice of correction for fraud is actually a one-page trust. Trusts don't have to be booked. The property is identified as a trustee and the beneficiary and the grantor. The trustee has duties. But you could be vague. It's the trustee's duties to manage the property for the benefit of the beneficiary. It's a private trust rather than statutory. If you do it right, are you doing it right, Moors? See, this contract is private, international, and law authority of the law in this matter, or is a private contract between the parties. It's really as simple as that, folks. See, at the top of most of presentments, right? You can write, this is a private contract between parties. What does this do? This defines it in the private jurisdiction. It's really that simple as sower seeds. Then at least 10 days later, when you give them a 72-hour notice, 3 days. Why 72 hours? Any transaction of a security interest takes 72 hours. So I sent a notice to cease and desist to both the former trustee and the bank, the former beneficiary. You're no longer the trustee. Stop it. Putting your house in a new trust can be as simple as these two documents, folks. You, the trustor, have the power to revoke even in an irrevocable trust when there's fraud. Or you can take the other process using a notary presentment in every step. You send in a payment, or rather a notice of tender of set-off. I like the conditional accepted for value. If you have an indemnity bond and then an offset bond for a BPN, you set up the treasury and the birth certificate bond in place prior to those. You could draft an instrument for educational purposes, register its number, record the assignment to the treasury, which is actually the account holder of the offset bond. The United States and all political subdivision agents and agencies thereof, every corporation is a subdivision. Keep that in mind. Every corporation is a subdivision of the United States. And then the tender for that payment, or you can do a banker's acceptance, right? Accepted for value. The statement, both sides, right? And turn the coupon. Coupon in French means to let's cut. I'm going to say that again. Coupon in French. Any Frenchmen in here? Coupon in French means let's cut into a money order, and then you tender payment going directly through the Treasury, IRS, Technical Support Division, sending just a copy to the CFO, Chief Financial Officer, endorse the back of the coupon like a check and leave it attached. Notary gets a copy of everything. You, of course, keep a copy for your records of everything. The Chief Financial Officer, CFO, of the bank gets a copy of everything, along with 9-210, showing zero balance in 14 days. You will have an agreement through notary certification of non-response, and you will have evidence of an acceptance of an accepted value at the Treasury. Do you understand? It's really that simple, folks. Maybe I should change the title. Show you how to possess a home. Does everyone get what I'm saying, man? You don't have to go and be a squatter, Moors. Do it right. They're not teaching you correctly in your so-called mosques or temples or what have you. This is how we own it. In a second, I was changing the title of this. So I've been talking, giving you guys all of this fire. All right, accepted for value, what? Exempt from levy. A lot of you trying to do A for V's and you're not even secure party creditors. Now you understand accepted for value means you're exempt from levy, means you're exempt for taxes and all of that. So stop asking me, can you do an accepted for value for a damn debtor? Debtors always lose, man. Let's face it, you are a loser if you're a debtor. Or you don't like that? And just keep it real, man. Feelings get hurt, get trampled upon, but sometimes it takes that, man. Gotta fall down and get back up. And accepted for value, right? Exemption from levy. Date, exemption ID, Social Security number, no dashes. Deposit to the U.S. Treasury. Charge the same to Tazadaq Shah. Social Security with dashes. 45-degree angle across the face. You know it. You've seen my videos on the accepted value. What do? I include a full page. Not cut out 1040V. That amount is left blank with all payments into the Treasury so that they will adjust the account. See, on the back, you would endorse it as if it was a check. All in the lower part of the voucher. Accepted for value, return for value, exempt from levy, prepaid, common stock, discharge, all presentment, and related fees. Adjust the balance to zero. Private, prepaid treasury exemption number, that's a Social Security number with dashes. Charge the same to Tazadaq Shah, Social Security number with dashes. No deposit statement. See, this is the wording that can be on the face of the statement with my autograph that many of you call a signature. Your signature means you sign over your nature. Do some research. Tell you what, Sourcey, do some research of commercial paper and bankers' acceptance. It's all there in Title 12 of the U.S. Code. And of course, in the UCC. So you stamp all copies, right? On any instrument of money orders you create, I mark it private in red. Usually on the upper right. Without recourse in red. Usually on the bottom right. Now, during the act of creating evidence of the acceptance of my payment, I send in my request regarding statement of account, UCC Article 9-210, for collateralized or secured debt to who? To the Chief Financial Officer, the CFO. Signed by me under the penalty of perjury that the account balance is zero. See, in commercial law, if they don't rebut this, folks, that under penalty and perjury within 14 days, the balance is zero. So when people tell me that accepted for value don't work, I know these people don't understand what they're doing. You just YouTube hop, but you really don't comprehend law, as most of you Moors don't. Stop faking it, man. Stop fronting. Stop fronting, man. See, they cannot allege the balance to be anything else because they cannot validate the debt. They have no personal knowledge, and no one at the bank can attest to the balance. Do you follow me? They get their information off of a computer screen, and the computer does not have the capacity to take an oath or swear under penalty of perjury. Do you follow me? Corporations can never make a claim. They are powerless in this regard. But you don't understand the law. I mean, the contract. Wait, contract is law and law is contract, which is why you should be reading my books. UCC 9-210, date, debtor, Tazadaq, Shaw, all capital letters, creditor, bank, account number, collateral, the property commonly known as address, the county of Kings, assessor's parcel, person 2, UCC 9-210, must be stated, the balance, leave it blank. I declare under the penalty of perjury, the following statements are true, correct, and complete to the best of my knowledge. No need for draw. But it's fine to put one there if you want one there. Send in the record a payment to the CFO. Then reconstruct the trust. Then clear your title. It's really that simple, folks. With proof of payment, zero statement account, proof of agreement, or reforming the trust, the new trust of all pieces are in place. The rest, the corpus and the trust is the property. So on bonds, Tazadaq uses 4 letters and 5 numbers. On notes, Tazadaq used 2 letters, 7 numbers. Just because most securities have 9-digit identifiers. You registered a bond with a registered mail number. Then I put notice of your registration on the UCC-1. Then I record my assignment of debt. At the bottom of the list, presented documents, notary certificate of mailing, indicating that the signed original is on file. Do you understand? $21 is declared value on the 3806, not the value of the bond note. $21 in stamps, which are accurately currency, $4, $5, and $1, not metered, to keep in international commerce. See, you may want to do a UCC bailee filing between the grantor and the trustee in your new trust. If you're doing a trust, right? The bailer is a grantor on the trust. It puts into development the property for the trust, who is now the bailee, the debtor on the UCC-1 to manage. UCC 9-210. Want to levy against someone? Write them a check for $10. Get their bank account information. Do you understand? Do you understand? It's really that simple, man. Register, man. Assigning entrance, UCC-1 +3. All birth certificate bonds, indemnity bonds, and such instruments, folks, are sent $21 postage registered mail. Bond numbers, entire sequences, $10,000 indemnity bonds issued numbers, $10,000 set-off bonds issued numbers, $10,000 PN issue numbers, can be registered with the UCC filings. And then whenever you issue a bond or note, you assign the initial filing, which claims this as your collateral. Take the file number from your UCC registration of the bond and note. Are you issuing the note? There would be no assignment that gets added to the UCC for this note. Each time you issue an instrument, there would be assignment of that instrument, and each assignment refers back to the original UCC-1 where all of your numbers are assigned and registered. So whoever sends it, Whoever you send it to is going to be the new secure party assigned to them. You could send copies of the original UCC 1, relevant UCC 3 to them with the note so that they could actually exercise ordinary care. You were the secure party maker and issuer of the instrument UCC 3 to add additional assigned parties, such as the Department of Treasury.
It's 3 o'clock.
Do you understand? UCC 3 is either an amendment or an assignment or termination. That's why we use UCC 3. So you need at least 2 identifiers. You need at least 2 indemnifiers, in addition to your principals, 2 securities, and 2 witnesses. So 4 other people who are doing their bonds at the same time. Husband and wife, son and daughter can be on the same bond. The birth certificate bonds must be filed in order to be a surety on someone's indemnity bond. Bond paper, 32 pounds, 100% cotton or linen, watermark, heavyweight paper, lasts 30 years. Bonds have borders. If there's a fault in the instrument, they will send it back to you. If they keep them, they are agreeing to honor any tender of the set-off you send in against these bonds. Offset bonds are joined on your indemnity bond. So if you're planning to use a BPN to set off debt, and you know already you're going to be setting off the debt, list the banks, the IRS, and the subdivisions and the agents thereof, Oregon Department of Revenue, state of whatever, and all the agencies and agents thereof in the list of the account holders. The FTB and the state of California have the same EIN. So they're basically the same entity. Sureties on the bonds, or so the BPNs, only require 1 signature. Do you understand? So the note is assigned to 2 parties, the chief financial officer and the bank. If you're sending it directly to the Treasury for set-off for the debt, the Treasury will get both the top and bottom of the note. Do you understand? Rather than the CFO. So evidence of debt, A for V, on both sides, along with the 1040V, with endorsement stamp on back of it. The statement A for V is the deposit that allows you to fund the money order or the note. Do you understand? So you can connect, you could use registered bonds and notes online assignments right before you mail them. There's no need to record them at the county level because they're not attached to any property. 5 minutes, $5. Do you understand? And if you use a P.O. box, use it for the public entity, because you cannot do non-domestic on your P.O. box, right? U.S. Postal Service runs the box. They are a domestic entity. And don't abbreviate anything on a physical non-domestic address. You write out everything in full and you put the alleged zip code in brackets. Do you understand? And so the birth certificate bond is worth $100 billion. So you could actually issue up to $100 billion in indemnity bonds based on your entrance in the birth certificate bond. The $100 billion bond is just a chosen discount amount. Essentially, you have an unlimited credit. If you were born in another country, say you came from Jamaica, this is all for you who don't want to be secure party creditors, huh? Say you come from another country, come from Trinidad, Jamaica. If you're born in another country, you use your naturalization certificate, or you use your children's birth certificate as a security, And you asked the custodian of it to set up your birth certificate bond with all of your own information. You created the trust, right? UCC is a national notice system. If Oregon won't accept your filing, file it somewhere else. New York is one of the better places. However, if you want to attach a claim to real property, you have to record it in the county where the real property exists. Do you understand? So I will highly encourage you before this second shutdown comes to get it in your plans to become a UCC, secure party creditor, with a UCC filing, which is a commercial lien against all the debtor's property. Because if you don't, you think it was bad last time, it may be even worse this time. So I will highly encourage all of you under the sounds of my voice to become secure party creditors as soon as possible. Stop lollygagging. Stop anticipating that things are going to get better. Stop thinking that they're going to get you out of this with a stimulus check. Stop it, man. It's not going to happen. Things are getting worse. What you can anticipate is a mandatory vaccine coming after you. That's what you can anticipate. And so with that, I'm going to bring this to an end. Shaw, you need to take care of that case, bro. I'm going to bring this to an end. As you exit the room, give a thumbs up. Donation would actually be even better. A lot of powerful information in this video. If you go back and listen to it at least 5 times, I'm sure you will walk away with some remedy. And you can thank me later, but thank me with a donation, not just with a simple thank you. So with that, I'm going to say shalom, shalom, kwam yasha Allah, Yahweh Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shabbarakatah.